Good morning to everybody. I'm Mitch, and here's Jeff once
Good morning,
again.
Mr. Siskind, and good
And,
morning, all.
and I won't bore our listeners with what we've gone through to get this to work, but it is working now. And we want to talk about getting published again. And one thing I've noticed is that if there's something really important happening, or if there's something you really want to talk about, that something will go wrong. There'll always be it won't happen as easily as you want. And in Kabbalah, they explain that by that the devil is doesn't want you to succeed. The devil wants to get in the way of something that's very positive. So
Der Teufel. Der
yes, yeah,
Teufel is the
or
German spell.
Satan, as they call him.
Yeah.
So that may have happened, but fortunately, we got done with it. So
When
here
I
we
was a little boy for many years, I chose at Halloween to be dressed as the devil.
That's very, did you really?
Yep.
That
I wanted to scare people.
you see, because
I
if
scared no one.
if the devil sees that, then he might think, "Wow, here's a guy that I can get involved with because
I
he's."
think the devil got involved with me.
Yeah. But see, the devil is always watching and but he's also pretty lazy. So if you don't jollify, as I like to say, about something that's coming up, he might not notice.
Ah,
But
Jollify. That's the first time I've ever heard that word.
yeah, that's a word that's a useful word. And because I remember when I worked for the Kabbalah Center. One of the people there said, he said very casually, he said, I really, I really respond to the teachings of Rabbi Elimelech, Rabbi Elimelech, who lived in the 18th century. But he
I
just
follow.
said,
I follow Ella.
yeah, he said, I feel very connected to Rabbi Elimelech. What he meant was that he's a reincarnation of Rabbi Elimelech. And
Ah,
that would be understood by everybody. But he deliberately said it very casually because if he had jollified, that would have attracted the attention of the devil.
I understand.
So, so now let's talk about getting published.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to say at the beginning?
Well, yeah, the last we did our last session, our last video was on ways to get published, particularly if you're, well, not particularly, but self-publishing was one option. We discussed finding a
Agent,
uh, an agent or finding a publishing company.
right.
We discussed self-publishing, and you brought up something I didn't know anything about, which is hybrid publishing.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, hybrid publishing, I think, is something that's come up since the ascendancy of the internet and the collapse of the retail bookstores, mostly. When what was it called? There was a big chain of bookstores that closed in the 90s, I think, or maybe the early thousands,
Right.
Borders Books.
Orders, yeah.
And that really got the attention of the publishers and it changed everything. I, for instance, lost a big writing contract because they really started to cut back. And now there's Barnes and Noble is still alive. It's kind of coming back a little bit. They opened a big store here.
Hmm.
But with the demise of retail publishing, this kind of what we call hybrid publishing came into being. And that's something where you sign up with a company and you have to put some money into it. And then they handle the basically everything
Oh, wow.
from the cover of the book. You consult with them about the cover, about the image on on the front, on the copy, on the back, all that stuff. And
Have you gone that route?
I have not.
Okay.
They and then they publish it. They get it onto Amazon and so forth. And the good thing about that is that you get a published book. Um, the kind of drawback of it is that you become kind of tainted with the major publishers who become reluctant to work with anybody who's
Okay.
done something where they self-published or where they did hybrid publishing.
Oh, that's very interesting. And with hybrid, what kind of money are we talking about, ballpark?
I would say um, around 3,000.
Okay.
So, and for that, you get, depending on what company you go with, you get a contract that is a good contract, or you can get a contract that's a terrible contract.
Huh.
And like with Chicken Soup for the Soul, which became a once in a generation, they couldn't get that published anywhere. And they finally went with a company that published it, and I believe got in the contract, I believe that that company got in perpetuity rights to publish, no matter what. And then they were stuck with it. Uh,
Uh,
so, they didn't make as much as they would have if they could have got out of it.
but the author probably did quite well financially. Yeah.
Well, it sold so many that they got money out of it. But
Yeah.
I mean, they probably got, it was two guys that did it, and they probably got, I don't know how much each. I think the whole thing is probably sold close to, millions of books, but they didn't get, they maybe got 1% or something. I don't know.
Wow. Wow.
But you see, I think to avoid that, you want to have um an in with the publisher, with a major publisher. You want to know so and so who knows so and so. You want to get a powerful agent is a good thing to have.
Right.
Um, all these things have nothing to do with writing.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, and what I've learned, I mean, it was a painful lesson because when I became a novelist 7 years ago, I thought after being a screenwriter, I thought this is terrific. Now I just write, and I discovered that that was not enough. That I had to become a marketer.
well, see, I feel like you are in a good position because you've got three books done, correct?
3 books done,
And you're doing a fourth.
middle of my fourth. Yeah,
That's right. And they're good books.
thank
And they're even kind of commercial.
you. Yeah,
Um, uh, I the thing that I feel like you maybe could be better off if you had a connection with somebody who's gonna say, here's Jeff, he's, and also, both you and I are old and we're
for
Jewish,
yourself.
we're Jewish.
I'm 39.
And but we don't have that um
Heat?
heat. We don't have that heat. And I the only thing that I can think about doing that, or how to rectify that, is, and I don't think about it very much because I've kind of surrendered about the whole thing. But if I
Right,
were to celebrate the fact that I'm very old, that
right.
that could become a selling point in itself.
Right. I have not yet surrendered. I may very well, because this is a real ordeal. It's a real battle to
Right,
sell books and to get people's eyeballs on the books. Uh,
right.
I guess one question to you would be, and you probably don't know the real answer, but I'd love your thoughts.
Yeah,
If you do not have an in, which I do not have and don't know how to find one, an in, a
right,
connection,
right.
and you're not famous, do you think it's even possible to monetize one's book?
I think it is, but then you're going to have to get into the marketing strategies and so forth,
Right.
which can help, which a hybrid publisher can help with that. But I don't think they can do everything like that, because I've worked with lots of people that have done hybrid publishing, and the most that I've seen a guy, I think there was a guy that sold a couple of thousand books. He's publishing it through hybrid.
Hmm.
I think he probably sold like 2,000 books. And I don't know the result of other people doing it, but what happened with him was he got on that radio agent where you only paid him if he got a gig.
Which
That
is
gave
very
him,
rare, is it not? That kind of agent?
yes, I believe it is. And I don't know if it still exists, but that helped him. And then he got involved with a columnist for the Chicago Tribune, and she mentioned him in her columns and stuff, and that was good for him.
Oh,
And
wow.
and it was a good book. It was about parenting, and he had a point of view, and it worked. But it didn't work because it was a well-written book. It worked because he found a guy who put him on the radio, and then that led to something else, and so forth.
Interesting.
So
You know,
that's
my experience uh, with self-publishing on Amazon and then attempting to find ways, to increase my brand, to get eyeballs
right.
on a book, to sell books. Um, there are a plethora of online advertisements, companies and people promising to make your book a bestseller.
Yeah, that's not going to
I
happen.
would not recommend that.
No.
I researched, there are PR firms and people who claim that they can do a bang up job increasing your brand and sales. I actually spoke with three or four of them at one point in time as part of my research, and they all wanted a minimum of $4,000 or $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
I never would have made that kind of money in a month. I mean,
Right.
that was insane. What I have done that has worked to some extent is I've done podcasts.
Right.
I've been able to find people who put me on their podcasts. The
Right.
most successful one was when I wrote the book Hounded a Love Story, available on Amazon, which uh, was about a semi-agoraphobic man who was given a shelter dog he doesn't want until he realizes that the dog talks.
Right.
Um, I sent the book. There was a woman named Tracy Hotchner, daughter of, what's his name? W.E.
A.
Hotchner.
E. Hotchner,
A.E. Hotchner.
friend of
And
Hemingway, and
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So she was extremely bright and well read. And she had a podcast, which I discovered, called Dog Talk. And it was on NPR. And so I just sent her the book with no
Yeah.
expectation.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, she got back to me and said, I love your book. It's the funniest book I've ever read. I'd love to have you on my show. So I did a podcast with her. It was a 30-minute radio interview, uh, like this in
Yeah.
person. And she was remarkably well read, an excellent interviewer. She had asked, the questions she asked were astute, and it was a great experience for me, and it actually had an effect on sales.
Yeah.
That did work. Another thing that works not as well, but it's something to do, is I've had a few book readings.
Right,
Find a venue, my home or a place or a
right,
library or whatever, and I invite people and I try to advertise it. And I select in advance a number of passages from whatever book I'm doing that for. Usually pay for refreshments, not caviar, but
right,
it's edible. And and uh, and I do the readings, and in between each, and I introduce myself and my book, and in between each reading, it's Q&A.
right,
And the people are very interested and have good questions, and I do my best to answer them.
right,
One last thing I've done is I try to find and target groups online that may have an interest in or connection to the subjects of my book.
right,
Uh, for instance, the Yo-Yo Years, the book I just published 2 months ago on Amazon that I've been having a difficulty marketing. Uh, One of the things I'm going to do very soon, maybe today, is I'm going to try to find groups online that deal with bipolar disorder.
right,
That's one of the things, in addition to alcoholism and in addition to basketball,
right,
that my book talks about. And when I've done that in the past, like with Hounded, it's a dog book. So I reached out to I would email, I would connect with dog organizations online,
yeah.
and some were very interested.
Well, see, that's great, and you
But
want
that
to,
doesn't do the whole thing. I mean, it makes a dent for sure, and it's something one can actively
but
do.
see,
So
you
you
also
feel like
want
you're
to,
doing
I think, as we talked about the other day, that the trick is to present yourself in such a way that they want to come to you, that you want to offer value, and then they'll come to you. You want to try to avoid asking people for, to help you. I mean, for instance, bipolar is a fairly hot topic. I think like today in the New York Times there was a review of a book about Abraham Lincoln's wife,
it.
and she was depending on who you listen to, she was either had a big mental problem or she was persecuted because she was a woman. But she was perhaps bipolar, and I believe the word bipolar exists in this review. And so you could say, I want to write a review of this book, and you could get it published somewhere, and you could say it, and then the bio of you would say, Jeff has written a book about, bipolar.
No,
And
that's a great idea. And Mitch, it's so interesting that you bring up Lincoln because I have read many articles by people who suggest that Lincoln was also bipolar.
well, he probably was. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
But when I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when I was 17, the term was manic depressive.
that's right.
It later, in the last, I don't know how many years, the term became the most used and accepted term became
Right,
bipolar.
right.
Yeah.
But see, if you were to look for bipolar, if you were to Google bipolar or something, and see any books that have been written about it, and then offer to write a review of it, and contact whoever. I mean, you don't lose anything, and you
No,
know,
that
um,
that's a really interesting idea.
yeah,
Going to try to do that.
yeah. Um, because then you're offering them something that they could benefit from, and then maybe you never can tell who's going to read it.
especially if it's a positive
That's
review.
right. That's
But I
right.
would try to write an honest review. Maybe that's a mistake.
I think it is.
Okay, then
I think I think, yeah, I think you
I would
want
write a review based on my experience and knowledge. And I've
to.
been bipolar, and I now work
Right,
bipolar people.
right. And
So,
yeah, you could say, this is what, and you would want to balance, what you're going to say about yourself with the so-called purpose of the article, which we're going to talk about the book. But that's something you could do.
that's a great suggestion.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, because people, Sylvia Plath and so forth, she's supposed to be there are a lot of people who are bipolar,
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's
especially
quite
famous
common.
bipolar people.
And
Uh,
I've been in AA for 39 years, and I can't tell you how many recovering alcoholics also have bipolar
right,
and are bipolar.
right.
Talk about it openly.
That's right. And you could even write an article without a review about that phenomenon. And you talk about the how that's been an issue for you, and now you're seeing it everywhere, and what does that indicate?
Yeah.
Um,
One of the reasons I wrote the book, The Yo-Yo Years, about my experience, and it's comedic,
right,
has to be, about alcoholism and bipolar, the problem and the solution, um, was I wanted to get a message out. And the message was bipolar illness can ruin your life if untreated. And here's my experience in fictionalized
right,
in finding solutions so that which I still have, bipolar disorder, hardly affects me.
right,
And it's not a self-help book by any means. It's the most entertaining and compelling fiction I could write based on my experience. And I take great creative liberties, inventing characters that weren't there, changing things, but with the basic story being my story. And I embellish
right.
to make it a better read.
Sure, of course. That's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
And because it's fiction anyway.
yeah,
And if you say it's fiction, then you're in the clear. Um,
yeah.
uh, so, see what you can think about in terms of offering something to somebody or to the world, and then hopefully they'll take an interest, and who are you going to run into.
Right. And
So,
these are great ideas and solutions
mhm.
for the real problem that self-published authors have, which is how incredibly difficult it is and how much time one has to spend. I probably now I spend as much time marketing as I do writing,
Absolutely.
or more.
Sure.
Um, and I'm willing to do that because it's I accept the reality.
Well, a lot of people, anybody, I think, who becomes very successful as a writer has to accept, that they're going to spend more time on that, because people think, and this is something I've talked to when I do ghostwriting, that, it's difficult to have a book that's being ghostwritten and so forth, or difficult to write any book. But it's actually the easiest part of being a writer, because you think this is difficult. Wait till you try to get people to read it. Then it's really difficult.
Oh yeah,
So, that's something to think about.
that's my experience too. And
Really,
Mitch, the last time we talked, we briefly talked about, or you talked about, the importance of finding a mentor if you're a writer.
that's right.
In my case, my dad died when I was 13 from alcoholism. And I searched at first unconsciously and then consciously for a mentor. I searched and never found.
Right.
And I wrote about that very experience in my novel, The Yo-Yo Years. The main character has the same experience I had losing a father early
Yeah.
and goes on a search for a mentor. You know, he checks out uncles, rabbis,
Oh, yeah.
counselors, Cub Scout den masters, and he never finds one. And, it's funny because I have what I think now is a mentor, and I've discussed her before, my wonderful consultant, Liz Dubelman.
Yeah.
But she's not a free mentor. I
Right.
mean, she's not cheap. She's worth every penny.
Well, again, the problem is you want to get somebody to want to mentor you without them knowing that you're actually behind, that
Yeah,
they have to think that they're doing it on their own.
the goodness of their heart.
And that's a trick that you have to play. Sometimes it will happen all by itself. Sometimes it'll be a family member or somebody who's, will do that for you, but it's got to be somebody who has power, and by that I mean a connection that can, move you forward. Um,
Power and knowledge and experience
that's
and
right.
desire to be in your corner
That's
and
right.
guide you.
That's what it is. That's what,
And you know, uh, as I said, I could never find one. And
well, it's not easy.
but it's interesting. I've seen many friends of mine who did find mentors or a
Right.
mentor found them,
Right.
and it's been enormously helpful in their careers.
Yeah, it's a
It just
whole,
hasn't been my experience.
absolutely. It's really helpful.
Yeah.
And when I say I've surrendered, I what I mean is that it's very difficult and kind of almost comical for me to, at this point in my life, to look for somebody who can be my rabbi, so-called, in that. But it
Me
was
too.
also always impossible for me because there's something about me that I'm unmentorable. And there have been people who have actually tried.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
But
I don't feel that I was ever unmentorable.
no, no, I don't think you are. And
Yeah,
you've
I
got a
just,
lot of,
and I just couldn't locate one,
right,
couldn't identify one.
right.
Um, but I felt always very mentorable, even now.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you have to, realistically assess where you are personally and in your career to hopefully get somebody who would play that role for you.
Yeah,
And um,
I
okay,
keep my eyes open.
all right, we're gonna have to stop.
Okay, Mitch.
Okay, we'll
This has been
talk
a,
soon.
this has
Okay,
been a pleasure as usual.
absolutely.
Thank you, my friend.
All right,
All right,
be in
take care.
touch. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.